So this is kind of where I sit with this topic, and lets me sleep at night. So we have, if that circle represents the totality of reality, God created all things and is in control of all things, and including humans and human freedom. But I would see human freedom as bracketed within God's sovereignty. So within those brackets, we have all kinds of real choices with real consequences that affect real people and even have eternal consequences. Almost like a fractal, right? Where it just keeps going and going and going eternally into the same patterns. And good choices match the plan of God and what it did, and bad choices are distortions or mutations. But God in his sovereignty can even bring the distortions and mutations back into the pattern that he has designed and purposed. Back to, I think it was Cindy, we were talking about time. If we replaced God's sovereignty here and put eternity, I would put human time in the brackets. And this is how I think about God and time, is this idea that God is eternal, and he's before time, he is in time, and he is beyond time, or after this timeline ends. But God is ever present before, in, and after, all at the same time, because there is only one time for God, which is now, and one place, which is in him. Thoughts, comments? Some heavy stuff tonight.
I think one of the problems that we often make is how we think of things in totality, right? That if we have free will, then we must have free will all the time. If there's predestination, then there must be predestination all the time. And I just see some problems with that. So to think of, you said it earlier, it's easy to think of major life events that have happened in all of our lives that have been spurred on by one small thing. And so I don't think that God has to remove our ability to have free will for him to also predestine us.
Yes, I would agree with you, Rocky.
Yeah,
and I don't know.
I think those things are in conflict. I don't think they are.
I love the intimacy of God determining what we're going to eat that day and where we're going to go and what clothes we're going to wear and whether we turn left or right at the intersection. I love that kind of intimate involvement in God's care in our lives, but it could be something much broader, like God simply isn't going to allow Herod to kill baby Jesus, but where they flee could have been north, south, east, what, maybe. But I like the more intimate that God does know. God knows all the words that are going to proceed from my mouth, and for whatever reason, he actualized me anyways. And somehow, as broken and flawed as I am, I still fit into his plan or purpose. And I take comfort in that. And once again, back to last week's, what really helped me with the book of Job is to stop judging God. God's aware of the way the world is. And when I see injustice and unrighteousness, God is even more aware than me. And I don't get to judge God. I'm the creature, he's the creator. And as long as I remember that, I'm usually okay. When I start thinking God owes me an explanation or answer or has to live up to my standard of ethics or morality, then I think I'm confused. And I forgot who God was and who I am.
Well, I wanted to say, going back to Judas, when you think about, like, when we talked about, did he have free will to betray Jesus? But to your point, I just feel like the lesson that came from it after that, like when Jesus asked him on the beach, like, "Do you love me?" and asked him 3 times, I feel like that's like a ripple in the water. Like it was a resounding lesson that came that was so much greater than just the betrayal. So
You're talking about Peter denying Christ?
yeah, when he denied Christ. It was like the lesson that came from that had way more, I feel, have had way more of a farther reaching lesson than just beyond the betrayal. So you want to talk about how, taking a negative, turning it into a positive, and you see that, and I think kind of the point that I feel you were getting was to the how everything that, even when people choose to do bad things, the lessons that could be learned from people around that situation or that was affected by that situation could be also far more reaching than the actual act itself.
Yes, and we have the benefit of getting to read the story of Peter. And so we see the despair and then the reconciliation and then where that took him. And it's powerful and it's profound and it's meaningful to us today in our own weakness as well, right? As an example or a lesson. And if you guys, I don't know if you're familiar with the Blue Letter Bible app. It's a free app and I keep it on my phone. You can use it on your computer as well. And what I love about it, I'm not going to take the time to look it up right now, but if you look up that passage about Jesus confronting Peter, and you're right, just like he denied him thrice, Jesus asked him 3 times if he loved him more than these. And the nice thing about the Blue Letter Bible is you can click and it will show you the original language in the Old Testament, the Hebrew, and the New Testament, the Greek, and it will show you the exact Greek word of love that Jesus is using. And if I remember this correctly, he starts with, "Do you agape me?" And he's like, "Jesus, how can you ask me that?" And then the second time, "Do you agape me?" And then the third time, Jesus says, "Do you philo me?" And that's more like the brotherly friend. And Jesus, and Paul's like, yes. He could answer to that one, but he couldn't answer to that strong agape. And I just thought, wow, he was humbled, proud Peter, and he needed to be humbled, right? That was one of his character flaws, was he was very proud. And that I'm sure was a humbling experience. Okay.